for the resurrection of Jesus to be a reality, to really bless our real lives, we have to go from just seeing Easter as a cute thing, a cute holiday with maybe a meal and then you move on, back to work tomorrow. Easter has to become a very Catholic experience. What do I mean by this? The resurrection can be so real to us. It is real. It may not seem real. I mean, really, of all the things that Jesus has done, we have Holy Communion. We have a cross that we could kiss before coronavirus. Now we venerate it on Ash Wednesday, Good Friday. But the resurrection is so hard to grasp. But it can be real in your real life. And I want to share a little story, because I would go to Mass every Sunday growing up, and I'm 36, but usually, until a certain point, and we'll get to there, Mass was just like, okay, you do your thing with God, and then you go back to real life, because God's not really present in my real life. I just do what I want. That was my lived experience, even though I went to Mass every Sunday with my family, and even in college. I think I missed like 2 Sundays, all of college. But the resurrection really wasn't real to me. I just did what I want. And so at some point, I remember very distinctly in college, I remember making this sort of experiential recollection that, like, when I would go to church, I would feel happy and joyful and good. And then I would just, like, forget about God forever until the next Mass, which was a whole week away. And all those other times I was striving. It's like in the gospel, we'll talk about people running to the tomb. I was running to popularity and, prestige and pleasure and all this stuff that people do in life. And I was extremely unsatisfied. But, as is always the case, you pretend. Everyone's doing this, so let's just keep going. Perhaps running away from God. At least in the real life. And so what happened was, I told this story once, I don't know if you were here then. I was in college, sophomore year, I was going to do stupid stuff, and it was very windy that day. And there was a large tree, about as tall as the inside of this top of the ceiling. It was like a, Christmas tree type tree. And the wind was so strong that night that it took down the tree, but I happened to be walking in the path of the tree, and I found myself in the tree, and it was very odd because I was like caressed by the green part and not like crushed by the trunk part, and I thought that was very odd. And then someone saw me, and they're like, "Oh, I thought you died. I saw you. I saw the tree. I didn't see you anymore." And really, it was kind of an eye opener. I really could have died. I probably should have, because of the gravity and the largeness of this tree. And I hate to say it, I don't want to scare you, but I would have gone to hell if I had died right then. God was, I would come to Mass, but God was like, no, not in my life at all, other than the hour. And that slowly, you pretend, especially, I don't know if you've ever had this experience, you almost pretend, well, that didn't happen. Like, God's clearly trying to get my attention. But okay, I don't want to listen, because that's too clear a sign. We ask for a sign from God, and sometimes we get it, and we don't want it when we get it. But I actually eventually went to confession, and it had been many years, and I was super embarrassed. I walked to the church. I went to St. John Fisher College in Rochester, so I went then to St. Louis Church. I'll never forget it. And after confession, well, I'll tell you what happened there, because this is all not about me. This is all about a real encounter with the risen Jesus. Because before me, with my eyes, I saw an old, balding priest, but experientially, I just had this encounter with the risen Jesus, who knew my sins, who wasn't as embarrassed as I was, who forgave everything, and who received me back with unconditional love. Yes, I was bad. The sin, rather. That's a good distinction. The sin was bad. I was loved. I was not bad in my essence. And if some of us feel like, okay, we're here because someone wants us to be here, maybe we should be here, but maybe we feel like there's sort of this guilt or sort of this like, we have to just pretend we're the perfect people in the museum here. But that's not what we're doing. That's not what the church is. That's not what Jesus rose to save you from or for. Jesus and his real resurrection is here to give you a peace, a joy, and his very presence, the presence of God in your real life. So that means Tuesday, time of tension, Jesus can be there. That means Thursday, when you don't want to get out of bed, Jesus, help me to do this. That means Friday night, Saturday night, when maybe you want to do the stupid stuff, you can remember, hey, this doesn't make me happy. I think it's going to make me happy, but it doesn't. It never does. So what Jesus can do is he can break into our real life, but he plays hide and seek with us. In the gospel that we just read, there is no head-to-toe encounter with the body of Jesus. He'll later do that, but they're not ready for that yet. And maybe we're not ready. Maybe if we saw the risen Jesus, maybe we would run away because we're not holy enough yet. So he's going to, out of deference to us, out of mercy to us, he's going to kind of lead us closer and closer and almost woo us to somehow come to reality. The reality that we could have a cute day. I said in the beginning, the realness of the resurrection has to be more than just a cute celebration of Easter, but rather a Catholic one. And so before I give a little intro about the gospel, and I won't go on forever, guys, but I want to be not theatrical, but I want to visualize something. That at Easter, we always forget that it's really about death and resurrection. It's not about bunnies or chocolate or even a beautiful dinner. That's all because I want to show you this. This very water, which is now our Easter water, which has been blessed, and someone was baptized here last night. It was a very beautiful thing. She's like 30 years old, Alexandra. This is meant to be the tomb where Jesus was laid. He died. Jesus really died, really God. He died and then he rose from the tomb. And so this water is actually symbolic of his blood that he poured out for us on the cross. And he dove deep into the tomb of death. And so do we. If you listened to our second reading, it said, do you not realize that you have died and your life is hidden with Christ in God? When I was baptized, I was called to live like Jesus. And I didn't know that. I thought you just come and do your thing for an hour, and then you live how you want to live. And that didn't make me happy, because I was called to an eternal destiny of goodness and peace and virtue and forgiveness when we need it, and we can be honest and not just pretend, but also realize that we're all hypocrites and we're all struggling with something, and we can all die. I hate to say it, but it's just that it crushes our notion of peeps and bonnets, and as if that was all that there was to Easter. Because that's just cute. And that culture is not going to save our souls. It's not going to make us happy. We may have a nice day, but then it's back to school, back to work. Actually, I think you have a week off from school. That's kind of cool. But I want to conclude with this thought. When Mary Magdalene, who was very close to Jesus, saw the empty tomb and wondered, what is happening? Where is God? He's hiding. He died, if that's not bad enough, and now he's not even here. Where are you, Jesus? We can be angry with God if we are holy enough to then listen for his answer. Maybe he's saying to Mary Magdalene and to us, I'm in the church. You think the church is old and cold and irrelevant, but what does Mary Magdalene do? She goes to Peter, the first pope. She goes to John, the beloved disciple. She goes to her friends in the flesh to find the risen Jesus. Because the risen Jesus, who is in the flesh, is right now waiting for us to encounter him in the flesh through the people of the church. And that's what I experienced. There were people I went to Mass with after I came to reconciliation who were like Jesus to me. And they listened to me, and they cared for me. And they were not perfect, none of us are, but they guided me to the point where I could leave my dream to be a lawyer, to have a house in the suburbs like this, to have everything just as I had planned it. And I could say, well, God, what do you want? And he said, I want you to die. I want you to be a priest in Spencerport one day. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. But then I eventually said, well, wait a second, why do you want that? Maybe you have something in mind for me, something better than the dog and the family and the things that anyone would want, right? But our dreams, this is my final thought, our dreams are not big enough. And it's not health and wealth that God's going to give us. He's going to give us authentic love. Through the persons in the church, this very parish, you may find people who are so like Jesus, not weirdos, not judgmental, but really human and really like God. And they, and only they, are going to help you find Jesus in the sacraments, in your prayer, in your real life. But it's going to be up to you. Because today could be a very cute day. You could take a picture here. You could take a picture of your Easter basket. But that could be it. And then it's back to a dark world that's increasingly violent and anxious. Or we can die to our plans, which are not good enough. We can come back next week and savor more of these graces. We could opt into the many ways in this parish that we can see each other in the flesh and find Jesus in this church, which will then make the resurrection of Jesus not only real, but really bless our real life.